A man wrestled with God through an entire night, and God could not defeat him. Not because God was weak, but because God chose not to be. Jacob was alone. His entire family had crossed the river ahead of him. His servants, his wives, his children, all gone. He stayed behind, alone in the darkness. He had reasons to be afraid. Tomorrow he would face his brother, Esau, the same brother he had deceived, the same brother he had stolen from. And Esau was coming toward him with 400 men. Jacob had sent gifts ahead, flocks, herds, servants, hoping to soften his brother's anger. But gifts cannot undo what was done, and Jacob knew it. So he stayed behind alone. And that is when it happened. A man appeared and began to wrestle with him. No introduction, no warning, no explanation. Just a man, in the darkness, wrestling. They fought through the entire night, hour after hour, neither one winning, neither one stopping. Jacob was no weakling. He was a strong and determined man, but this was no ordinary opponent. Then as dawn began to break, the man touched Jacob's hip socket. With a single touch, Jacob's hip was wrenched completely out of joint. Any ordinary man would have collapsed. Jacob held on tighter. The man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." And Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Think about what just happened. Jacob was wrestling with someone powerful enough to dislocate his hip with a single touch. And Jacob's response was to hold on tighter and demand a blessing. Not to run, not to beg for mercy, not to collapse in defeat, to demand a blessing. The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. And the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, it will be Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men, and you have overcome." Jacob then asked, "What is your name?" And the man said, "Why do you ask my name?" and blessed him there. Jacob called that place Peniel, which means the face of God, because he said, "I have seen God face to face, and yet my life was spared." The sun rose as Jacob left Peniel, limping. Who was this man? The Bible identifies him elsewhere as the angel of the Lord, a figure most scholars believe was the pre-incarnate Christ. God himself, in human form, choosing to wrestle with a man through an entire night. But why? Why would God wrestle Jacob? Why not simply speak to him as he had before? Why the physical struggle? Why through the night? Because Jacob needed more than words. Jacob had spent his entire life wrestling his brother Esau for a birthright, wrestling his father Isaac for a blessing, wrestling his uncle Laban for fair wages, wrestling his own nature, his own deception, his own fear. Wrestling was the language Jacob understood, and God spoke to him in his own language. God did not come to Jacob that night with easy comfort. He did not appear with reassuring words from a safe distance. He came and wrestled all night until the wrestling produced something that words alone never could. A broken hip, a new name, a completely changed man. Jacob limped away from Peniel, but he limped away as Israel. The limp was not a punishment, it was a reminder. Every single step Jacob took for the rest of his life reminded him of the night he met God face to face, of the night he refused to let go, of the night his name and his identity were changed forever. The nation that came from Jacob took the name Israel, named after one man's night of wrestling, named after one man's refusal to let go, named after one man's demand for a blessing, even in the middle of the darkest night of his life. God still wrestles with people today, not always with comfort, not always with ease, not always with clear and simple answers, sometimes with struggle, sometimes through the longest, darkest nights of your life, sometimes with a wound that changes how you walk forever. The night feels endless, the struggle feels pointless, the pain feels unbearable. But if you hold on, if you refuse to let go, if you demand the blessing, even when everything in you wants to give up, you will not walk away the same. You will walk away with a new name, a new identity, and a limp that reminds you of the night you met God and refused to let Him go. Hold on, the blessing is coming.